Hello, my name is Simon Bate, and this is XP 3001 Percival. This is my first group game this year, and we will be doing the Only You brief. In the first week of development, we did a lot of planning and we created a presentation and also level design. In the second week of development, I did a LDD and a blockout. And so you might be asking, well, what is Percival? Percival is a third-person action-adventure game set in the Arthurian legend, where our hero, Sir Percival, must go on a quest to reclaim the Holy Grail from the dreaded Red Knight. We're just going to go over a few things that you can do in the game. Percival has a sword, and he can either do a light attack or a heavy attack. Light attack is quicker but less damage, and heavy attack is slower, more damage. But also you can use the sword as a lever in puzzles. And also Percival has a block and a parry. His shield works off a stamina system, and no stamina is gained when you're blocking, but when you are blocking, the attack is negated. Next thing is that for combat, we're going to have a lock-on based combat system. So you can switch between enemies and do high attack, low attack, or parry. And then also we want to incorporate a valor system, and this will let you do more damage for a small amount of time, and a little bit of valor is awarded for killing an enemy, but more valor is given when you're taking damage. And then this is sort of balanced out by when health will only be replenished when the player kills an enemy through valor or very slowly outside of combat. And the other things that we want to do is we want to have some jumping and also a grapple hook, which we use for pulling objects towards you and also swinging. So this is level 2 of our game, and in level 1, Percival's castle is attacked and the Holy Grail is taken. So in level 2, which is this level, Percival has tracked down thieves to this castle, this Motte and Bailey castle, and the Bailey is at the bottom. At the top there is a Motte, which is a large earthwork hill to keep on top, and they have a staircase connecting. And this castle is called Proud Castle. Unfortunately, the main gate is shut, so Percival must find a way to get in. He can't just fight his way through. What the player can do is he can sneak around the side and then sneak into this little carriage, which is just finishing up its inspection. You can hop in the back of this, and this will take him directly to the stables. And once he's in the stables, he can either just instigate combat directly, or he can sneak around and pick off some various enemies before main combat ensues. Because when he enters, he sees the Holy Grail being taken up the staircase and this flying bridge raising up. Now, a flying bridge is like a drawbridge. The player can do, after the combat, he can do this small puzzle where he can stick his sword into this lever spot, and it will lower the bridge. But when he finishes levering it, it will raise back up. So he has to use this grapple hook to quickly grapple on the top of it, and then he can get over before the flying bridge fully raises up again. Then the player will get onto the stairs, where there will be various enemies, and typically these enemies will consist of either 1-on-1s or 2-on-1 combat encounters, and there'll be some archers at the top trying to shoot down. So at the top of the stairs there is a small gatehouse with 2 heavies inside, and when you enter, both portcullises either side slam shut, and the player is trapped inside. In this enclosed space, the player must now defeat these 2 heavies and also use their sword as a lever to open the portcullis, which lets them enter into the upper Motte courtyard. When they enter in, they see across the Holy Grail being taken on the bridge across, and then the staircase to the keep is also broken. Then there's a little bit more combat, and the player must move this block onto the pressure pad, which elevates a small moving platform that the player can get up into the main keep. When the player enters into the keep, door to the bridge shuts, and a chain connecting the door to the door mechanism goes underneath into the floor, goes into the cellar. A little bit of fighting going on after this, and the player must figure out how to get into the cellar. There is a tower in the corner with a spiral staircase, and the player can see into the tower using some bars. And there's also a balcony, and they can see that there's this little balcony section. You can see that the top of the stairs is in the balcony, so the player needs to figure out a way to get up into the balcony. What they have to do is they have to move this block onto this pressure plate to allow them to get up to here. But initially this grappling hook point isn't there, so they have to grapple over here and then pull this block towards them onto this plate for this grapple point to appear. And when they go on there, they can now go into the cellar area. Then there's a small combat encounter, and then the player can pull the lever, which will pull up open the gate, and then they can do a grapple hook on this little hatch here, and they can get up. And then there's actually a fake wall here. This is a fake wall. They can open up this door and get into the bridge. Okay, so on the bridge, there's lots of combat, and there's some archers shooting from the gatehouse. And the player sees the player must go through the bridge, and there's some more combat. And then when he gets to the gatehouse, he must lower this door here. So open the door, and then must go upstairs, and then he can open the door using this little switch. And if they go into this room, there is a upgrade station where they can upgrade some of their weapons, and then they can come down and go through the gate, and that's when they fight the boss, who has the Holy Grail. He has the Holy Grail, and he's on horseback, and you're not on horseback, and you have to. The first time you hit him, he gets damaged and loses his shield, and the second time you hit him, he knocks off his horse, and then you have to just face him basically on foot. And when you finally defeat him, a cutscene initiates, and he grabs the Holy Grail off his horse and then just runs away, and then the player will chase after him. And then that is the level. Okay, so this is my block up. So this will be the carriage, and the player start just outside, and they'll have to sneak into this carriage, which will then take the player through the gate into the stables, and then the player could sneak around a bit. Now, I made this slightly differently, as I wanted to have the sneaking section a little bit more enclosed, and then forcing the player to initiate combat as they go through here. Because then they will see the Holy Grail taken up the stairs, and then the fire bridge being leveled up, and then they would have to start the combat here. Something I've changed about the stairs is that I added these little landings. I thought it made for a bit more interesting gameplay, that you're fighting up the stairs initially, and then you eventually get up to these landings, and then there's a bit more of a different combat, and then you can fight up the stairs again. And again, at the top of the stairs there'll be some archers, and then when you're trapped inside here, there'll be some heavies to fight. And then here is where I made my second sort of major change. So when you enter here, whilst on the original top-down, the angles weren't very good, but when I moved it into sort of a three-dimensional space, I could get a better sense of. Over there is on the bridge, and then we would see the Holy Grail taking over the bridge. So that's sort of the first main thing is that you see is the bridge, and then if you look around, then you see the stairs. There should be stairs going up here, and then they would break. And when you enter here, I want to add a little bit of elevation, so I added some mini little stairs there. But then when you enter in, this is where you see the doors be shutting, and there'll be a mechanism, a little chain going into the floor. And then you'll see the wheel of the combat, and then you also see this iron bars, and then you can see the stairs going down, but also you can see the stairs going up, and you can see a big gap there at the top. And I actually moved the false door. The false door moved to here instead. The reason why I did that was I just felt like it would be a bit more interesting if we came up from the top section. You have to come down again, rather than just coming straight out here and instead of left. I was also playing around with having some windows on the tower, but I'm not so sure if I'll keep them. I might just continue down, because you can see in here, you can sort of see around through the bars. And when you come down, you'll be faced with an enemy, and then straight ahead of you there'll be the objective, which is the chain mechanism, which should be behind there. But in front we have a little enemy, and then it will encourage the player to sort of come around this place, a little bit more fighting, and then they would come around to the enemy, and then they would come up here and do grapple hook here, and then also when you grapple up into this area, you then do another grapple hook up there as well. Now the change I made on the bridge was that instead of the bridge just being flat, I wanted it to be a bit curved. This means that you're fighting up for a bit of verticality. Start off, and then on the way down you have the high ground. Finally we get to this section where you're going to be facing off against the boss. Initially it was just a big square, I didn't really like that, and the scale which I had in the top down wasn't large enough when you had the big horse. So I think this room, when the horse charges towards you, I might need to make it a bit larger, but it'll be something shaped similar to this. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.